Today we're at a typical Canadian mink farm and would like to talk a little bit about how farmed mink are raised. Mink farming has a long history in Canada. In fact, mink farming originated in Canada as far back as 1866. This shouldn't be surprising, as the fur trade has always been an important part of Canadian heritage. With generations of selective breeding, today's mink are domesticated like other livestock.
My parents moved to this location in 1963, and in 1964 started the mink ranch with the original 50 females. Since then, we've expanded the herd to come up to roughly 1,700 females.
We're here with Robert at WCS Mink Ranch to discuss how farmed mink are raised. Robert, can you tell me a bit about the housing systems used to raise mink?
Yes, like all livestock farming, mink farming is a business and you require large quantities in order to make a living. Raising mink is labor intensive, so our housing is designed to keep animals comfortable and to provide their needs in the different stages as they grow. Buildings are usually long to accommodate rows of raised pens with mesh floors which allow the manure to drop through. The sheds are usually opened in the summer to allow airflow to keep the animals cool, and closed in the winter for protection from the cold. Pens are designed to keep animals comfortable and give easy access for daily viewing and checking on all their conditions. Pens are also flexible, designed to change to meet the needs of the animals for each stage of growth in the mink growth cycle. Wood boxes and bedding for comfort, and larger wire pens for exercise, feeding, and observation. There are birthing pens called whelping pens, growing pens, and holding pens. Whelping pens are designed to have an enclosed wooden box nesting area where the female feels secure and gives birth. Here we use hyperallergenic bedding to keep the females comfortable and the kits warm. There is also a larger wire pen that the females have access to for exercise. These pens contain access to water, food, as well as enrichment or toys, and a shelf or hammock to keep the animals content. When mink kits are born, they are the size of my little finger. To protect them, a false bottom is introduced into the wire pen to keep them from falling through the bottom of the pen. During this phase of production, the false bottoms can become soiled in the unused portions of the pen, so they are cleaned periodically. Mink are generally quite clean animals and do their business usually in one spot. As soon as the kits are large enough, the false bottoms are removed to allow the manure to fall through the bottom of the pens. When the kits are 3 to 4 weeks old, feed is placed close to the kits on the nest box lids or on feed trays to transition them to solid food and help nursing mothers until the kits are able to reach and eat from the top of the pens. When the kits are large enough, they are weaned from their mothers. Young mink like to crowd into nest boxes, which can give the appearance of overcrowding, but they do have access to the entire nest box and wire pen. The litters are now ready to be split into smaller groups in growing pens. They are then divided again into holding pens. Pen sizes and designs are evolving as we breed for larger, better animals and new research data becomes available. Mink usually drink from a nipple drinker and always have access to fresh water. Sometimes their empty water cups look to be dirty, but in actual fact they are drinking from the nipple. Basically, we recycle meat protein from the things that people do not eat. These products are ground and mixed with fortified cereal grains to form a mash similar to that of canned pet food. Working with mink nutrition experts, the products are selected and the rations are balanced for each stage of the mink production year. The feed is balanced with fat-protein ratios or fat-carbohydrate ratios for reproduction, early growth, and finishing. Feed is treated with acetic acid to prevent spoilage. We feed this mash on the top of pens where the animals are able to pull it through the wire. This is the cleanest and most efficient way to feed, as it allows for easy removal of old feed It also provides for easy access to feed several times a day to make sure that the feed is always fresh in warm weather, and enough feed during the early growth period where it is quite common to feed 4 to 5 times a day.
Robert, you were telling me that kids get a little nippy with their mothers and siblings at this time. Can you tell us how farmers deal with this situation?
In any population, whether human or raising of farm animals, things happen. Some animals may get sick or injured, and some die. An example of this is the period near the end of lactation, as the kits are in transition to solid food and water. During this time, kits explore the world by tasting, biting, nuzzling, and playing, establishing a so-called pecking order, or who's the boss. At this time, we see a small percentage of biting and chew injuries around the ears, even though there's ample feed. During daily checks, any injured animals are removed and treated as soon as possible. I do not believe the animals set out to hurt each other. Through management, proper nutrition, and selective breeding, many of these issues can be prevented or minimalized.
Robert, you said the kids explore the world by tasting it. Do adults outgrow this tendency, or are adult mink also pretty nippy?
Adults do outgrow most of these tendencies. Just like people, there can be fighting or very rough play. We have found when such behavior is seen, it is best to separate the animals, and should there be any injuries, we should treat them. On my farm, sick or injured animals are treated and are moved to a hospital section in a row. This makes treatment with antiseptic sprays, iodine, lotions, topical and injectable antibiotics on a regular basis easier, until treatment is no longer required. The hospital section is not usually very long. On my farm, animal welfare is a priority. I work with my local veterinarian as well as 3 other veterinarians that are on retainer to our industry. Do most farmers call on a veterinarian to treat every sick animal? The answer is no. The farmer or custodian recognizes sickness or injury and is trained to administer established treatments. When, however, there is doubt or there are any herd problems or health problems, that's when veterinarians are called for testing, diagnosis, and to prescribe the appropriate medication. Animal welfare standards and protocols are in place and are set up in the form of the National Code of Practice for the Care and Handling of Farm Mink. This was developed with the input from veterinarians, animal welfare advocates, and animal welfare scientists. The national welfare standards address pen size, the housing density, as well as all aspects of the mink industry. Our industry has recently adopted a third-party inspection and certification program to prove compliance for farmers.
Robert, how do you think the mink would react if I came out here with my camera at night?
Well, mink are usually nocturnal animals, and because they're used to our regular staff and the regular activities during the day, if you come out at night, it would be a totally different circumstance for them. It puts them out of their routine. If a stranger comes out at night with bright lights, they would startle the mink, scaring them to run into the sanctuary of the boxes. Put someone with a bright light outside pens where the mothers are nursing their babies. They are bound to get nervous and act aggressive to protect their young. Come close to the pens with a bright light, and animals will bite the wire and attempt to bite the person or camera that's in their territory. Mink farmers, like all livestock farmers, are concerned when somebody comes in that they pose a health risk to our animals.
Robert, mink are raised for their fur, so at some point they must be euthanized. Can you tell us where and how this is done?
The National Code of Practice for raising mink requires that we euthanize humanely and have them deceased as fast as possible. We use carbon monoxide gas. We bring a special cart pen side where we place the animal in. Within 15 to 20 seconds, the animal is unconscious, and in a short period of time later are deceased.
Robert, one of the criticisms of the mink industry is that the mink are skinned alive. Is this true?
This is totally false. To be a real farmer, you have to have passion for what you do and compassion for the animals you care for. Our goal is to raise the best quality animal possible. The idea of skinning an animal alive is truly inhumane and would cause massive damage to the product, take more time to do, and be intolerable to my employees. Canadian mink farmers have high standards for animal care and produce some of the highest quality fur in the world. Farmed mink is a sustainable industry that uses mostly recycled food byproducts to create a warm, renewable, and natural product. I'm Robert Schwartz, and I'm proud to be a mink farmer.